Hi, everyone. I'd like to thank each of you for joining Index and our speakers for this discussion today. I think these conversations are important and give us all the opportunity to do a little reflection on how much positive momentum there is around us and the incredible changes our industry has experienced over recent years. I think it's important for me to acknowledge, however, that even the changes brimming with potential can require an adjustment in mindset and effort. But connecting and sharing in a way that I think today represents, I believe is imperative for collaboration, awareness, and maybe even a little bit of inspiration to take in to what's most certainly going to be a year of progress, 2024. I'd assume that most of you in the audience joining us today work in roles that require conscious effort for adaptation, as you likely touch multiple different platforms, systems, and technologies. But we can be very proud of the market we represent, in that our tech-savvy population continues to be at the forefront of digital advertising evolution. My personal view is that 2024 is not going to be a walk in the park, but we're ready to level up when it comes to responding to key market drivers and consumer demands. Today, our wonderful guests, Charles Dangibeaud and Diane Ho, will talk privacy, continuous consumer shifts, sustainability perspectives, and other innovations that work to captivate audiences and drive performance for our advertisers. So no more from me now. Please welcome Charles and Di. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Great to be here.
Awesome. Let's start with the impact recent trends have had on the Australian digital landscape. What's pushed us to where we are today, and how are they setting the stage for next year? I'd love to hear from both of you to kick us off today, but Di, would you like to go first?
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks, Jay. Look, one of the key themes that we have seen is the rise and growth of premium streaming video and CTV. What has been evident in the last 12 months is that consumers are still really leaned into free ad-supported services. And that's been really important with rising inflation, but also the huge investment that broadcasters have made around data technology, user experience, and content. And also we've seen the growth of FAST, which will be a big trend for next year. In addition to that, new entrants have entered the market with subscription video on demand and ad tiers. And that is going to continue to grow with more entrants entering into 2024. And that's really fantastic because it will provide more premium video supply, more competition, and that actually accelerates innovation for the industry, and also allows brands to, connect with audiences that they haven't been able to reach before. The second theme is around identity and first-party data. And over the last couple of years, as clients have been preparing for a cookieless future, they've been really doubling down on their customer view strategies, and broadcasters have also been doing the same. And that allows for greater relevancy and personalization. And one of the key themes that we are seeing is, clients wanting to work with us and agencies on data collaboration and clean room solutions. And that's going to continue to scale in 2024, which is fantastic to really understand the power of addressability as it relates to delivering on those business and brand outcomes. And then, of course, as the industry becomes really complex, we need to ensure that it's really easy to trade. So, really driving those efficiencies, making sure that we can, work with different buying methods, and also prove performance based on the current economic climate. So an exciting 2024 to look forward to.
There's a lot on our plate. Charles, anything you'd like to add to that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks, Di. I think you've given a really great view of the trends that you're seeing from a broadcaster standpoint. We're seeing, I think from an agency standpoint, there's probably 4 major trends that we're seeing playing out in the advertising landscape. It's kind of been bubbling for a few years, but they're really, I think, coming to a head and really setting the stage for 2024. So I think the first one really is the digitization of channels. We've been experiencing a significant evolution in linear and offline channels moving into the digital space. I think examples of this are connected TV, digital audio, digital out of home. And I think this shift is shaping the way advertisers and agencies are looking at media activation and measures of success within brand KPIs, as well as business outcomes. think the second one is really around data-driven strategies in AI. There's a clear trend towards the utilization of new technologies and data-driven strategies. And, marketers are really upskilling and integrating AI tools into their strategies in a bid to stay competitive, whether that's in data analysis, media optimizations, or personalization to enhance engagement and return on investment. Actually, at Groupm, we've been in this area for a while with our Copilot AI tool, which has been powering the back end of our programmatic buying since about 2017. But beyond that, there are a lot of tools the industry's been using for, many years across social and search that have been underneath supported by AI and machine learning. But I think what we're likely starting to see is a continued trend and increased proliferation in AI-specific tools with an actual user interface now, rather than just a back end. And, I think a focus on this space really has accelerated significantly in the last 12 months since ChatGPT and large language models have taken the world by storm. I think the third trend is going to be around retail media proliferation and e-commerce. So in 2024, the expansion of retail media, I think, is going to be a really big area in digital advertising. It's got that direct access to consumer purchasing data. It's got precise and targeting capabilities at the point of sale. And it's got really that promise of improved closed loop attribution to directly link that ad spend with sales. That's a really attractive proposition to advertisers. And, in the shift towards first-party data and a privacy-focused landscape, that's really going to bolster that trend and drive innovation. And then finally, but not least, privacy compliance is going to be, as Di mentioned, like a really big part of 2024. It's going to continue to sort of evolve, and whether it's the Australian Privacy Act or the deprecation of the cookies, data privacy and regulation will have an impact on every brand's way to engage with their audiences. And marketing as we know it is about to experience a massive shift, I think driven by 4 key areas within this, I suppose, trend. That's going to be privacy regulation acceleration, device ID and IP-based third-party data will be deprecated, consumer awareness and data control around user consent and opt-in is really going to change, and users are much more savvy than they used to be. So I think those are the 4 trends that we're seeing on our end, and it's really shaping up to be a very interesting year ahead.
Certainly is. We're going to be unpacking a lot of those themes further down through our questions today. But what an amazing way to set the scene for our discussion today. Thank you both so much. You both mentioned some consumer shifts. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about that. Do we think that the changing consumer behaviors and preferences have played a role in these current trends that we've kind of outlined now? Charles, what are your thoughts first on this one?
Yeah, I mean, of course, consumer behavior changes constantly, but I think, all the sort of stage setting that we've had for 2024, I think a lot of these changes were actually accelerated by COVID-19 and have actually persisted, even as we've mostly returned to a normal life. I think if you think about increased digital consumption, lockdowns and social distances sort of really led to a surge in that increase of digital content. And advertisers had to shift their focus to those channels to reach consumers where they were spending most of their time, so on their devices at home. I do think that what happened here is that essentially spurred an uncanny synergy with the digitization that I previously mentioned, and driven a need for media and technology to adapt rapidly and at scale. Obviously linked to that, there's also e-commerce growth. That COVID-19 accelerated the adoption of e-commerce and online buying. And even within Groupm's own research, as well as research from eMarketer and the ABS, by the end of this year, we're probably looking at close to 75% of Australians that will be online shoppers, with a whopping 97% actually making purchases on mobile. I think, this was accelerated by COVID, but it's here to stay. And this is really a strong shift in consumer behavior. And it's led consumers actually to now expect seamless experiences online, which means that actually advertisers in turn have to increase their focus on direct-to-consumer approaches and optimization for e-commerce transactions and enhance interactivity within their digital advertising strategies. And then, of course, I think, there's media fragmentation. Di touched on this in her introduction. We've just had an explosion of digital content, a proliferation of, subscription services across entertainment, and really, I think, a renewed focus on consolidated and more engaging users' experiences across social. Consumers are really spreading their attention across multiple platforms. And I think that behavior is really something that advertisers need to adopt in cross-media planning and attribution to really understand the impact of each touch point.
Thank you so much. I'm a personal, I would say, participant in multiple of the areas you just discussed, in those trends and online shopping, certainly using your phone and devices. It all resonates very personally with me. Thank you very much. Di, what are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely agree with Charles. I mean, the changes that we saw through the acceleration of digitization with COVID is so relevant and still continues to be. Even as broadcasters, we've had to really shift the way that we surface our content across multiple platforms, across all of these services, and that's something that we're really focused on. And consumer behaviour continues to shift. One of the really interesting growth areas that I spoke to previously was around FAST. And that is, growing exponentially from a global standpoint, but we still have a long way to go locally. We launched live TV with Pluto TV this year, and just off the back of launching in August, only a few months ago, we've seen some really interesting behaviours that are very different to what we see across live and VOD. It's that lean back content discovery experience. It's connecting with nostalgic content. Viewing is higher on CTV with double the watch time, and it's tapping into a younger audience, which has surprised a lot of people because it is a nostalgic content, but 44% of the audience is 18 to 39 and much younger than what we see on live and VOD. And so that's a really good example of how these behaviours are continuing to shift and how advertisers can now capitalize on these new entrants. And then also next year, as we launch Paramount Plus ad tier in 2024, that's also going to be really exciting to see how that continues to evolve. To support, what Charles was saying, it's really about then, advertisers and agencies, leaning into these changing consumption behaviours. There's so much education that also needs to happen in the market as we continue to evolve. And that's going to be really important as we educate clients and agencies around the changes that are ahead of us.
That's a perfect segue into the next question, which I'd love to point towards you, if you don't mind, just to unpack and go a little bit further into those insights. I'm very keen to hear from you on how you think Australia's shift to total TV is affecting my media buying, and how do we think that the introduction of OzTam-FOS is set to shake up the total TV landscape next year?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, Jay. Look, total TV is so important because of the shifts in consumption that we have spoken about. We cannot look at linear and BVOD in isolation because that is just not the way that consumers are viewing content. So VOZ as measurement is really important to be able to allow agencies to plan, buy and measure, and ultimately become a currency, which is a big part of the roadmap. In terms of total TV, what we are seeing from the market is an increase of clients briefing us on total TV. So no longer looking at the two in isolation, but bringing those budgets together and asking us to respond on total TV solutions, and then how we can utilize the VOZ data set to look at converged TV trading, whether that be fluidity of budgets, whether that be a single audience buy across a demographic and being able to deliver on those audiences and then measure the reach and frequency. And then VOZ streaming, of course, is a really significant initiative that all the broadcasters, including 7, 9 and ourselves, have collaborated on to really, ensure that we can combine linear with programmatic buying to be able to measure reach and frequency, also to be able to manage frequency across the participating broadcasters, incorporate co-viewing because of the consumption on CTV. We know that there is more than one person in front of the TV. And then, of course, being able to measure that reach and frequency and the incremental reach that BVOD provides to a linear campaign. And when we have run campaigns through VOZ, we see lifts of anywhere up to 25% in reach across certain demographics. And so as an industry, we need to, ensure that we're continuing to evolve. And VOZ streaming is open to others to participate. And really across the industry, from broadcasters to the buy side and the sell side, and also to agencies. Collaboration is going to be key to continue to evolve and address the market requirements from a total TV standpoint.
Thank you. That's super interesting, and there's certainly a lot of eyes and ears peeled on that topic at the moment. Shall we move into a bit of policy chat? Very important, impacting all of us to certain degrees. And I'd love to explore with you, Charles, today, if it's all right. What are the regulatory changes and privacy concerns marketers should be preparing for next year? And where do they start to navigate these potential challenges? I know you mentioned a few of these already in your opening, so it's perfect to circle back and unpack that a little bit more now.
Yeah, it is a really interesting space, ever evolving. I don't think there is a clear answer as to exactly what it will look like yet, but we have indicators, I guess. And I think that really what marketers should be doing is really just start preparing for, a number of these changes and privacy concerns as they head into 2024. We've been focusing on this heavily at Groupm to prepare for, I suppose, the two major changes that we are expecting. So first, the Australia Privacy Act, and then secondly, the deprecation of the cookie. So if we're going to sort of start with that sort of privacy legislation compliance, I think education and sort of staying informed is really going to be right now the best way to stay ahead. So even if, it's about staying informed and compliant with global privacy regulations such as GDPR, while understanding sort of the evolution that's happening in the conversations when it comes to Australian Privacy Act between the ACCC and the industry. Businesses, they really need to understand how these laws affect them. And I suppose in just a few areas, such as especially data collection, data processing and storage. I think it's really important for just staff to be trained and aware that these changes are coming. Just ensuring that, all team members are aware of their obligations and are trained in the principles of data protection and, the laws that are relevant to the specific operations in the business that they work in. I think even just that will, put them in a much better position to navigate these challenges and changes effectively as they come into effect. Now, if we're going to be talking about, I suppose, deprecation of the third-party cookie and what I suppose I call privacy by design, I think with the planned phase out of third-party cookies by, major browsers, marketers should consider a shift towards either first-party data strategies or explore really alternative approaches that comply with privacy norms. So you can have, you've got cookieless solutions or contextually driven solutions. I think it's really important to integrate these considerations when they're either developing new products and services, or whether they're exploring them, or whether they're speaking to, publishers such as Di here, or agencies such as, the team at Groupm. And I think this proactive approach really can help mitigate any risk that's sort of associated with this constantly changing landscape. At Groupm specifically, we're investing a lot of effort in the use of, I suppose, fully anonymized and compliant geolocation activation strategies, alongside, sort of compliant first-party data enrichment strategies, such as what Di was talking about regarding sort of clean rooms. And then I do think that it's also important to call out that there's an increasing number of tech companies that are leveraging the power of context signals to provide brands with new ways to target relevant in-market audiences without necessarily having to rely on any personal data. So there's a lot of options out there, but I think really understanding, where you sit and where your risk is, and exploring different ways of doing things, and being proactive about it really is going to be a game changer for marketers.
Thank you so much. There is so much information and signals as well, and I think that that will be really telling for next year and how we prepare for that.
Absolutely.
Kind of related to that, but another topic that is creating a lot of interesting discussion, certainly related to the data application piece, and it's around personalization strategies. Di, can you share any data strategies you're utilizing that would be considered like an innovative way to approach personalization?
Yeah, we are. It's definitely something that we're very focused on in terms of how we work with clients to unlock that value as it relates to data and personalization and those experiences. And CTV really is at the forefront of, contextual advertising. And we know that, from research, 78% of consumers are more likely to buy from brands who personalize that experience. So essentially what we did was we had a hypothesis and we ran a study recently that if you combined addressable CTV with a premium content environment, so really, leveraging the power of context with a premium ad format, that it would deliver on brand outcomes for a client and provide that incremental lift. So actually what we did was we ran a number of campaigns in MasterChef, and we utilised our partnership with Curve to run a dynamic video campaign that essentially takes a client's existing TVC and looks at different data triggers such as age and gender, time of day, day of week, to create different creative variations that were updated in real time based on those data signals, to really also then capitalise on that creative message, but also QR codes to drive that deeper engagement. And actually what we found when we ran those campaigns is that not only running in the right context delivered a 625% increase in scan-through rates for those clients, but it also delivered on those brand metrics. So purchase intent, awareness, as well as consideration. And that's really important to actually demonstrate the power of personalization and DCO, and what that can deliver for a brand in the biggest screen in the living room, and being able to deliver on those brand outcomes as well as that engagement piece with the brand, which is really fantastic to see.
I love it. How wrong I was to underestimate QR codes so many years ago. Very, very wrong. So I'm going to move to probably my favorite question I will be unpacking today. And it's fun. So I'd love to ask you both the same question. Which emerging technologies do you foresee will have the biggest impact on our campaigns next year in Australia? Charles, would you like to kick us off on this one?
Absolutely. I think I've touched on mine already, but I do think if there are two technologies that will probably have the biggest growth, it'll probably be AI first and then AR secondarily. But I do think AI really will have the biggest impact. I'll just touch on AR quickly. I think AR is a really interesting execution for areas like social, or areas that are really about engaging that user. They are very creative ways to sort of create that personalization, create that engagement, and drive that brand affinity, which is really exciting. But really, I do want to focus on AI because I do think that, especially in the programmatic space, this is where we're going to have the biggest impact. The reason for that is because it has an incredible ability to analyze and understand just massive amounts of data so rapidly in a way that humans just can't, and which but when you actually use that in conjunction with human intelligence and the ability to sort of understand real world nuances, it's super powerful. So if we're going to think about the benefits that AI can bring in digital advertising, the first one is around that personalization in targeting space. It can analyze massive amounts of data, understand behaviors, preferences, and allow for highly personalized advertising campaigns, even potentially in a highly privacy compliant area, right? Because it is really about tapping into those trends and I suppose matching those to really understand what users respond to. Secondly, I do think it's around, and linked to that sort of DCO, AI tools can really help with sort of generating creative content for ads, sort of that automated content creation in a dynamic way, including text, images, videos, and sort of tailoring this to performance and how people are responding to it and what is most relevant. And that not only can improve performance, but it can also turn into huge savings, both in times and resources. And then, I think if we talk about predictive analytics, if we have a look at historical data or in-flight data, AI can really sort of predict trends and consumer behaviors, enabling us to sort of adjust our strategies accordingly and in real time, and much faster than what we've been able to do previously. And then finally, I think at the end, it's around those insights. We for years have been trying to find that real small nugget of insight that's like really valuable to the campaign and to the brand itself. But I think that this is really going to be able to sort of increase the speed at which we can get these, and also improve the number of insights that we can gather. And, we really at Groupm have sort of been leading this way since 2017, as I mentioned, with our Copilot AI, that I think has been really an amazing tool to sort of help us with another part that AI can help with, and that's programmatic buying, because it can essentially automate the bidding of ads to ensure that we're paying the right price, that we're targeting the right audiences at the right time, and improving ROI. I do think that is going to be really important, because it will allow us to also integrate multiple data streams and provide brands just with a more comprehensive understanding of consumers, what they're doing, but also their specific audiences as well. So I'm super excited about what AI is going to bring. And I didn't expand too much on AR. I think it's going to be a really interesting space, and it's a fun space, but I just don't think it's going to have the velocity that AI is.
Thank you. Fascinating and very exciting. Di, what are your emerging bets?
I promise I didn't catch up with Charles beforehand, but also AI and VR. Look, Charles has covered a lot on the AI front, and really, fantastic to see that evolve, and also, what Groupm has been doing in that space. And we recognise, the operational efficiencies, also the cost savings and the benefits that the technology can bring. But it's also going to be very important to focus on people and process as we head into 2024. We need to ensure that there's effective application, but also a lot of education in the workplace to ensure that we're driving adoption and also trust of the technology. And then from a VR point of view, it's, something that's been talked about for many years, but I think it's really been interesting to see the evolution in different industries, such as, education, as well as, medical fields in terms of, training, as well as, simulations for surgeons, as an example. So you can see how that could apply in the, entertainment industry as well, and really providing those immersive experiences into the future. We have so many audiences that, love content. So, providing those opportunities moving forward, I think it's a space that will continue to evolve, and then how we can, involve brands in that experience as well.
Brilliant. Thank you both so much. Switching gears a little bit, I think it's important for us to cover this next question, as I certainly can't go a day without sustainability considerations popping up in my partner discussions. But with this growing awareness of sustainability and ethical concerns facing our business operations, how can digital marketers align their campaigns with responsible practices in 2024? Is there any light that you could shed on what specific practices your companies use to drive a more sustainable advertising journey? Let's start with Charles. Again, on this one, I believe your teams have recently taken home a few awards on some of these strategies. So let's start with you.
Yeah, we have. Thanks, Janette. It's been a very exciting year for us. So sustainability and just, I suppose, general responsible practice really are, a key pillar of Groupm's long-term vision, and our overall basically strategy and mission to make advertising better for people and for our planet. At a global level, so obviously locally it's a massive priority, but it is also a priority globally. WPP actually have set a global target of reducing our operational supply chain emissions, so otherwise known as Scope 3 emissions, by 50% by 2030. So like that is going to get here very quickly. So it's something we care deeply about, and we've been putting a lot of effort into driving within our business and across the the industry around sustainability, responsible investing, or D&I. These are areas that are all priorities for us under what we call the Groupm Alpha program, which is our whole of business approach towards making advertising better for the future generation. Generation Alpha, who are the kids born after 2010. So within the sustainability pillar, we've actually developed quite a robust and scalable solution with two key pillars. So first of all, we have a planning calculator that allows us to estimate emissions on a media plan across 11 channels, both linear, offline, as well as digital, ahead of going live with the plan. So what that allows us to do is it allows us to have a look at what we're thinking and getting a baseline as to what we think these digital emissions are going to be based on the methodology that was developed by our global team in partnership with EY. And this is a really good first step to start really understanding where you sit and what your activities impact is. Then the second pillar we have is a real-time sustainability dashboard that we've actually been working on with Scope 3, which is a sustainability measurement business founded by Brian O'Kelly, who was the founder of Xander, and very, very well versed in the digital space. This actually allows us to get a real-time view of emissions from digital programmatic campaigns across individual domains, ad formats, devices, and more, with additional channels such as digital out of home and CTV planning to be added in the future. So we're early in our journey. We feel like we made a lot of progress in a year, but we do think that both of these are great ways for brands and agencies to really truly understand how their media plans are performing from a carbon emission standpoint and take the right measures to optimize and introduce tactics and strategies towards carbon reduction, but also understanding how you can do that without impacting business results. And that's really what's important, right? It's still getting the right business outcomes by also doing good for our environment. But then just before I hand over to Di, I just want to call out a few other areas that we're looking at in terms of, responsible investing. So we look at, diversity, equity, and inclusion and responsible investing, where our investment team has spent a lot of time educating our teams and driving partnerships and initiatives to redirect media dollars towards publishers and vendors that have strong alignment to these values of ours. We recently launched our Back to News initiative, for example, which is really about supporting high quality, responsible journalism and avoiding media dollars being directed towards publishers that do not adhere to a certain standard. So this is a really important part of what we're doing in Groupm. It's something we believe in deeply. And, moving into 2024, it's just going to accelerate and it's going to become even more important. So we're just unbelievably excited about it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So much going on. Di, over to you on this one.
Yeah, fantastic to hear all the initiatives that Charles just spoke to, because we do have such a responsibility and using, the power of our platforms and also our people to create a more sustainable future, but also really positive change in Australia and within the industry. Sustainability, as well as DE&I, are core pillars within not only our global business, but also our local business. So I'll share more around what we are doing in the sustainability space. The first is around a global pilot that is currently running in the UK. That's one of the benefits of being part of a global business, is that we can leverage learnings from what is happening in international markets. So what the UK is doing is they have been chosen as a pilot market across Paramount to implement a number of different initiatives that is aimed at reducing carbon and ESG initiatives to provide a more sustainable future. And some of these initiatives include reducing and having targets around Scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, also integrating and looking at content opportunities to leverage the power of the platforms to educate communities. There's also work around carbon calculators to implement those within our productions, but then also a huge educational role that needs to happen internally within the business, and more importantly, also research to actually understand and provide insights as to how we can influence change within communities. So it'll be really exciting for us to unpack those learnings from the UK, and off the back of that, that will roll into different initiatives that will roll out globally and also locally in Australia. In addition to that, we 12 months ago was the first commercial free-to-air broadcaster to partner with Sustainable Screens Australia to be able to measure the carbon footprint across our productions and also start to set some standards for the production partners that we partner with. Really exciting to announce that the Doghouse Australia next year will be the first production that we work in partnership with Sustainable Screens Australia and the Carbon Calculator to ensure that we can measure those carbon emissions with that production. And lastly, food sustainability is going to be a big theme and focus for us over the next 12 months. We have amazing content such as MasterChef and The Project and Ready Steady Cook. So what you will see is us taking those themes of sustainability, integrating and telling them within those formats, and allowing us to work with those formats, but also with brands on educating Australians on how they can also play a role in a more sustainable future as it relates to food. And then finally, I think for all of us, we're all at very different stages of that journey. So, really, continue to lean in, work with our agencies, work with clients, work with vendors to create that more sustainable future for us.
Thank you both. I'm really inspired. That's a lot of action that's being taken, and we've got a long road ahead, but that's fantastic, and I feel really, really inspired. Thank you. Moving to the final questions now, and Di, I'd love to hear what challenges you think marketers are going to be facing next year, and off the back of those challenges, where do you see the most significant opportunities?
Look, it's been a challenging year this year. And so we walk into next year with, continued challenges. And I think global pressures, the first thing that gets looked at is marketing budgets, and they get squeezed. So it's really important to ensure that that doesn't stop innovation, because it can be very easy to go back to cheapest cost and media metrics. And as we've just spoken to today, there has been such an evolution in the digital landscape. So really encourage, clients to, really lean into that and test and learn, and look at these, emerging technologies. We are so fortunate. We are in such an advanced market in Australia. We always want to trial new things. We take calculated risks, and it's so fantastic to work in a market that, has those values, and, really, really excited about what's to come from that. And, an example of one of those emerging technologies that we're excited to test next year is shoppable TV. So that's a partnership that we have with Curve, that we were doing a proof of concept next year in Survivor. You'll be able to look at specific content from specific shows. The viewer will be encouraged to pause to shop, and then it will surface a range of products that people can shop straight from their CTV screen. Now, that technology is already happening in the US, and they have partnerships and with some of the broadcasters over in the US, and we're excited to be a proof of concept market, which will then go into Paramount globally, and then we'll be able to roll that out locally across our other shows. So just a really good example of innovation and continuing to utilize technology to drive that engagement and those immersive experiences. So I would just urge the industry to continue to lean in to that and so much more that's ahead of us.
That is so cool and so scary for me with how much I'm watching and consuming. So closing on a little bit of advice from both of you. What words of wisdom would you share with marketers who want to stay ahead of the curve next year? Charles, should we start with you?
Yeah, so I think we've touched on a lot of these and on a lot of the themes that I suppose would be the words of wisdom. But I think there's probably four, I suppose, main areas to think about. So firstly, probably education on products, understanding how that is going to impact your business, how your business sort of plays within that. What are the approaches that you can take, and really not hesitating to sort of engage with your partners, your agencies, your vendors to understand what's going on out there. I think the second one really is sort of leaning into sort of that innovation and technology. You know, Di, I love the fact that you said that even if it's a difficult economic situation, it shouldn't sort of hinder innovation. I love that. I think that's amazing advice. And I think that they should really lean into that sort of innovation and understand where automation can benefit them. You know, whether that's on the activation side, on the operational side, or on, you know, the reporting side of things. Automation can be an absolute game changer for businesses, and I think that AI can play a really big part in that. Thirdly, I do think that, you know, really sort of developing a sustainability strategy, trying to understand what that means for you and your business, how to act on it, what your reduction targets are. You know, it's very possible that some businesses have, you know, a policy for it that they haven't necessarily sort of communicated as broadly as down to the marketing teams. You know, I think that that's a really big part of it, because sustainability is only going to sort of get bigger as a topic. You know, the internet has as big of a carbon footprint as the aviation industry. So it's really something that we all have a responsibility to sort of get involved with. So I think that's going to be a big piece. And then, you know, just touching on Di's sort of great piece on Total TV, I think it's just, you know, understanding just generally how the digitization of channels and the evolution in measurement across Total TV and sort of general omni-channel activation within the media landscape will affect media strategies and results and our understanding of these audiences. So yeah, I suppose those are my 4 points if you want to sort of start getting ready for next year. And you know, I agree 2023 was a big year. 2024 is probably going to be an even bigger year, but you know, even with difficult sort of situations, there's always a way to sort of drive innovation and still do some amazing work. So really excited for the year ahead.
Thank you. What a great wrap up. Di, you want to bring us home?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I agree with that, Charles. There is so much opportunity despite the challenges that we face. And even in a challenging economic climate, it's so important to focus on brand, because it's in these types of environments where consumers are willing to switch. You want to also then build that loyalty with your existing customers. And, you know, with the evolution of all of the themes that we've spoken about today, what a fantastic opportunity to lean in. And that requires partnership. So more than ever, it's that education, it's working with your agency, working with publishers to understand how we can, you know, build deeper partnerships to be able to drive business growth for clients. And it's such an exciting time for us to be able to do that together, because there is so much out there. It's actually wanting to really understand the impact of, if you immerse yourselves in these innovations or new technologies or automation, if that delivers a great business result, then that's an amazing case study to be able to continue to optimize and improve the way that you approach marketing moving into 2024. But it has to come from collaboration, and also that understanding of making sure that, you know, you're always very clear on what the objectives are, and then being able to, you know, deliver that across you know, different strategies that you can implement across the course of the year.
Brilliant. Well, we're at time, perfectly timed. And gosh, that absolutely flew by for me, certainly anyway. Thank you both so much for sharing your invaluable thoughts with everyone today. I have just enjoyed this discussion so very much. I think it's fair to say that even just the breadth of all the topics we covered today is representative of how much is going on for us in our world and how dynamic the nature of our industry is. I hope next year we will see more collaboration than ever before, likely some further consolidation and a whole lot of adaptation. I'd like to extend a huge and very, very warm thank you to both of our amazing guests today for sharing your knowledge and all of your advice, and also to the audience for their active participation. As we navigate 2024 together, let's remember that success lies in our collective ability to embrace change, harness the power of data, creativity, and my personal favourite, any opportunity that we get to sit down in front of a whiteboard and solution together. Thank you, and see you all next time.